Check it out with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Luan Lam, who is the Chief People Officer at Harness. Welcome to the show, Luan.
Thank you for having me.
You are at a very hot startup with almost 500 people now in the continuous software delivery industry. I wanted to have you on the show to talk about some of the challenges you've seen during the pandemic and maybe share some of the best practices and lessons learned.
Absolutely. Happy to.
So let's start with the pandemic. With the lockdown, the vaccination requirements, people working from home. It's been quite a wild ride for you, right?
It has been. I mean, if you think about the fact that we were just kind of trucking along and then the global pandemic hit, and overnight, the whole people function, the HR function got thrown into the limelight, really being front and center of taking care of the employees of the company.
You've been doing this for over 15 years and you've progressed. I know you worked at App Dynamics, Informatica. So you work at big companies and built up the workforce from the ground up. But this is totally unexpected and a new experience for you. So how have you handled that?
Never did I expect to have these new set of challenges that are so, number one, so global. It's not just specific to one company, but it's a global challenge. So with that, Harness had to really pivot. So we have to kind of rethink how we go about running the HR function. People are now scattered. Everyone was scared, didn't know about the future of the whole global pandemic. So one of the things that we did was really just started catering to our employees and creating a remote workforce. So the challenges surrounding like remote work to employee engagement to even like diversity, equity, and inclusion. How do you do that during such a rough time when no one's actually in the office? Programs just to support the remote work. For example, we started doing a home office stipend for people to be able to kind of create a home work environment that is to their liking and to their needs. So we gave people a stipend and they could actually use that stipend to really do anything. They could buy, hundreds of dollars of popcorn and fill it up in the office if they wanted to. On the engagement level, we started promoting a lot of activities throughout the last 18 months, if you will, but just kind of having, get-togethers virtually, whether it's a happy hour or like a yoga break at lunch or like a lunch break where people can actually just log in and have lunch and still kind of have that social interaction.
You guys have this novel program that ended up being a standard program for you, which is the Friday off. Is that right?
Yes, we experimented with this because during the pandemic, people couldn't travel. And so the work-life balance became, or that line became so blurry. And even if people wanted this time off, they couldn't go anywhere. So, and then because we are so international as a company as well, we are very global. We are north of 10 different countries. So the time zones are so different. So even if we wanted one office to take some time off, they didn't feel comfortable enough because if they were to take some time off, their colleagues were still working in other parts of the world. So we decided to actually implement a TGIF off program, so which is, thank God, it's Friday off. So every month, almost every month, in the middle of the month on a Friday, we have an entire company shutdown.
I think that's a great idea. And it is true. If you're off, but your colleagues are not off, you can't really be off, right? So it's
Exactly.
great that you're making it mandatory where everyone is off.
It was supposed to be a temporary really perk for the company, but because it became so popular, it became the most popular perk at our company. And now we have made it into a permanent perk. Yeah.
That's a great tip for people out there. So try it out, right? Having TGIF as like a company-wide day off.
Absolutely.
Offices are beginning to have people come back. What challenges you face and what do you see?
One is actually the great resignation. So because people were in a lockdown and or working remotely for the last 18 months, people just wanted a change. when the economy is, in some economies around the world are picking back up again, people just wanted to change. So there are companies out there that are experiencing 30-40% turnover rate.
That's very
uh,
high.
it's extremely high, especially in the tech industry.
Yeah.
Extremely high, and everyone is not immune to that. I mean, bigger companies are having the same issues at startups like
Mm.
ours. But to kind of combat that situation, we put in place a couple of initiatives or programs. One is actually enhancing or promoting our global mobility program. So what that means is, instead of encouraging people to kind of look internally for other roles that they would like to try out, versus look externally and leave the company, right? So we put in place even a not just a domestic transfer program, we also put in place an international
Mm.
transfer program, where employees, after about 18 months of service at the company, uh, would be able to kind of throw the hat in the ring, if you will, to entertain other roles within the company. The other initiatives that we put in place would be kind of, we're standing up right now our learning and development program, so that people can continue to hone in their skill set, but also learn new ones as well. So that's going to be an important development or employee development for our workforce, and also enhancing benefits for employees. I mean, that's a critical piece, especially as we continue to have this kind of hybrid workforce model, which we have announced at Harness, that for the most part, the majority of our employees gets to choose whether or not they're going to be working from home permanently, or coming into the office permanently, or have some type of a hybrid model. But going back to the benefits, enhancing certain types of benefits, especially around the mental health and wellness, having that balance is important. So we did put in place quite a bit of effort to create a well-balanced work-life balance, a blend, if you will, to the point where we got named the top winner of the Well Beyond Award for mental health category just recently. I mean, as recent as last week. And another second actual award that we won was, we got second place out of the top 10 for remote work by Quartz.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So, yeah, but it's not a lack of effort by other companies as well. But I think what was important is that our employees felt that we were catering to their needs during the pandemic, and coming out of the pandemic as well.
I can totally understand people looking for a more balanced life now that experience. Maybe they moved to the countryside, right? And do not want to come back in the office. But also, I think you're right. People are looking for a change. It's great that you're giving them the opportunity to find internal opportunities instead of like seeking outside the company, and offering them this international opportunity. How exciting is that? Are you seeing people taking advantage of this offer?
Yeah, we have a couple or so employees internally who are interested in doing that, but also domestically, we also have people who are interested in moving into another role within the company instead of going externally to another company. And the market in general, like the talent market in general, we do see that trend happening right now all across different companies as well. People are entertaining a change, and they are encouraged to look internally before looking externally.
As Chief People Officer, what would you say is your mission as CPO?
For me specifically, my mission is to cater, nurture, and develop the most important asset of our company, which is our people. I have a really strong belief that without people, there isn't a company. So essentially, people make the company, and not the other way around. So with that being said, so the mission surrounds building out the future of the company, including its culture, values, to help employees scale and grow. So it is important to think about the mission through the lens of the candidate journey, and how you incorporate that into the employee journey. right? It
Mhm.
starts with that. It starts with the concept of making sure that the current as well as the future talent needs are being met by the company, right? So that's really is about attracting, recruiting, and hiring the right people into the company, which is the candidate journey. I will coin that term. And then once they are in the company, so how do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them wanting to be a part of the organization so the culture piece comes into play, right? Because it's an important part. People love to identify themselves with an organization, whether the product speaks to them or they love working with the people that they are with and or they believe in the vision direction of the company. So that's all would be a part of the culture. So how do you create that culture? How do you maintain that culture? How do you enhance that culture to retain, develop, and continue to engage employees as they grow with the company and potentially become future leaders?
I see you as someone who is a strong role model because in this space, the CPO title often is
Right.
a white woman who is the leader of the people operations. And here you are, an Asian man. That's quite a rarity there. How has it been for you in this role? And tips would you share with those who would like to be in your shoes one day?
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for that compliment. To be honest with you, I guess I have never thought of the fact that being a CPO is rare for someone like me. But recently I started kind of looking into the stats of that. So roughly about 20% or just a little above 20% of CPO roles are actually filled by men. And if you kind of break down that kind of 20-ish percent, we probably get another very small diversity data set between Asian and non-Asian. So it is, you're right. So it is rare. And I do acknowledge that, but at the same time, I'm very honored to be able to be in this role as well. It's a direct contribution to really the many mentors and managers that I've had to help me get here. What kind of advice I could give? I would say if you're thinking about going to HR, major in it. Human resources was really not a major when I was in college, but now a lot of colleges and universities have that as a major. If you're interested in go into the people function, major in it. Or take classes, if you're in college and find out that this is what you want to do. Then seek out an HR internship to really have first-hand experience doing the job along with other people. And then find a mentor. It's so important. And again, I have to go back and have to thank some of the mentors I had over the years, including some of my managers who got me to where I am today. Once that's done, and then you know that you want to go into HR, then half of the job is just show up, like showing up with my 3 A's. So the first A is having the right attitude when you show up, having the right aptitude to be able to absorb and learn things quickly so you can scale. And number 3 is having the right appetite, meaning that you are always hungry for more, meaning the curiosity that you should have to continue to learn and grow within your own field.
One of the things that I love about you is that you're very innovative in the
Thank
programs
you.
that you initiate. And I think it speaks a lot about your leadership capability, right? When you talk about culture early on, I was thinking, yeah, you told me the story of how you guys came out with the values. And I
Yeah.
thought, wow, that is very innovative how you got there. Maybe that's an example you want to share.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. So I remember when we started growing at Harness, when we are 100 and something employees going about into 200 employees, we started talking about, well, maybe we should kind of put our core values in place. So I remember going to our executive staff meeting that day with my colleagues, and I brought the topic up. And immediately the team said, great, let's have an offsite. And then us, the executive team, can work on distilling the core values for the company. And the first thing I said was, wait. That's not what I was planning. I'm suggesting, I do believe that if we are creating core values for our employees should have a big part in it. So meaning that they should. And to be honest with you, one of my team members, Krista Shields, who runs my talent management side of the house, she was very adamant about this as well. She was also advocating for this aggressively, and that's why I was compelled to go into the executive staff meeting and propose it that way. And with some hesitation, naturally, and reluctancy, the team agreed. So what we did was we actually put together a culture committee. So we wanted the different voices within the organization to be heard. So we would ask certain members or employees in certain groups within the company. And then we started work on a project. And it took us a few months to kind of be able to come up with 30 something core values and distilling it down and down and down to the 8 that we have today.
That's why I wanted you to be on the show as a thought leader, because you're not just doing the same old program. You're actually thinking of new ways and creating core values from having the employees participate so that they really are proud and embrace it. I think that is fantastic. So I applaud you on that.
Well, thank you. I'm very honored.
I think the other thing I wanted to comment on is the fact that diversity and inclusion is very top of mind for a lot of leaders. And obviously, you being a minority are sensitive to this. And what kind of diversity and inclusion programs are you running that's innovative that might be a good tip for people out there?
That's a really great topic. I think it starts with being really intentional about building a very diverse and inclusive workforce, because it is critical to the success of any company, right? And the well-being of their employees as well. So the concept of everyone is accepted and welcomed anywhere at Harness is kind of our own diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative. So attracting and hiring people or employees of different genders, races, cultural backgrounds, to languages, to the sexual orientations, national origins. That's important to us. Because studies have shown that when you have a more diverse and inclusive workforce, you're able to expand your creativity, right, to innovate. You have a wider range of resources and experiences from the different employees to make better informed decisions as well. And of course, increasing productivity and profitability, right? Studies have shown that companies that are more diverse has a 21% higher rate at executing and succeeding. Now, if we move into like different programs, initiatives that we have kind of put in place, first and foremost, we have a really robust Women at Harness initiative. So we want to make sure that we cater to our women. So what does that entail? It entails like on a quarterly basis or so, our women kind of get together. We celebrate them that way. They might invite industry leaders, female leaders, to come in and talk to them about topics such as how do you even communicate effectively with your male bosses or male managers? How do you negotiate as a woman? How do you show up? And then also kind of think about going into management, right? So tips and tricks along that. We recently actually have a AMA session, which is Ask Me Anything for our diversity panel. So all of the executives, we show up on the call and we answer questions around diversity, right, within a company. So we're trending about 20% kind of male versus female within our company, which is not bad, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Yes, and you're being intentional about it. So you're tracking it, you're intentionally trying to progress. And so that's really the first step is you have to measure and then be able to then try to see that you are improving, making a difference.
Absolutely. So if we're just talking about the male versus female number, that's about 20%, but we're talking about overall diversity, number, we had about closer to 28%. So we're doing, I think, pretty well for a startup because it's harder right, at a startup initially when you start building out a company. But we have programs in place where we work with not just really women in tech or just trying to attract them, but we also are working with different organizations to attract underrepresented groups into the company as well, whether it's veterans, whether it's African American, whether it's Latinx, you name it. So different groups that we are working with to get more diversity into our company.
Now, Harness is hiring. I know you guys are
Yes.
growing. You guys are a hot company.
Thank you.
Often I find that people who go to startups is because they're looking for hitting the jackpot of like a company going public and hitting it, winning big.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like the myth and also the misconception about going to a startup, because I think everyone thinks that having like an exit of some kind, whether it's an IPO or getting acquired, is the end game for the company. And I'm here to tell you that's just one of the milestones within a company's journey. So if you think about the concept of starting a company, right, you have different milestones that you want to hit. So for example, the first would be, how do we get our revenue, right, north of $1 million right out of the gate, right? And then the second milestone could be, how do we get into a double digit revenue number? And then third could be, how do we get into a triple digit revenue number, right? And then in between that, you might have some kind of an exit, whether you take the company successfully through an IPO or you go and get acquired into a bigger company. That's also a really successful exit strategy. But then again, like that doesn't stop there, right? A lot of companies also have the vision of, how do I hit like $1 billion? And how do I go beyond that? And then some companies, right, success to them means, how do we create a world-class organization, right? In an environment that is diverse and inclusive for employees to show up authentically and do the best work. So yes, success can be defined in so many different ways, but financially, I think the IPO or having an exit of some kind is not the end game for any company, right? There are so many milestones beyond that a company would like to hit. And I know for us specifically, the exit is not the end game for us. We would like to create a legacy, if you will, like building a company that people want to be a part of and continue to talk about for years to come.
Now, Harness is in the continuous software delivery business, and you guys are really pushing the envelope. So you're leveraging AI and you're expanding your portfolio. So it's certainly a very hot space you're in, and you're hiring a lot. What would you like to say to those who are interested in joining Harness?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity. So it's kind of interesting. Like I said, a little 3+ years ago when I got here, we were a single product company, right? So Harness was the first of its kind, a really self-serving cloud native approach to CDCI. But back then we only have CD, continuous delivery. And then really we entered the market with that. And then we, fast forward 3 years, we have now extended and evolved into a full orchestration platform. We've grown more than 2x in revenue year over year in the last 3 years I've been here. We have raised a total of almost $200 million worth of funding, and then we are now valued at $1.7 billion, and we still own a C round.
Wow,
Right?
you guys are a unicorn.
Yeah, we are. So we made a unicorn list when we did our C round at the beginning of this year, and we're still growing. Again, we exited the year last year at about just a little over 300. We're already almost at 500 and still growing. So for those who are interested in a very complex and technical solution, who's interested in working in an environment where our people of all different walks of life are embraced and encouraged to show up authentically to do their best work. This is the place for you. Please check us out. It's at www.harness.io/careers. You find a ton of openings all around the globe.
It's been a great conversation to hear what's happening in the HR space and to learn that you are growing and you're hiring. I appreciate you being on the show, Luan, to talk with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again. It's always a blast coming back on the show and talk about a topic that I hold near and dear to my heart, which is people.
And you are absolutely a thought leader. So it's been a pleasure to talk with you. For those who are watching, thanks for listening. And please check out harness.io. Luan Lam, Chief People Officer at Harness.
Thank you so much.